What's poppin', people? It's Dante, currently going for my morning walk here in Philadelphia, photographing with the Ricoh GR3. Check out the birds. Yeah, I love going for these morning walks and exploring the Schuylkill River Trail. I feel as though walking is bliss. And when it comes to practicing street photography, maybe considering the physicality of photography is critical. You know, when I consider photography and specifically intuition, I consider the movement of my body, and the way that the movement of my body is what ultimately determines the photographs that I create. And so by focusing on physicality, maybe we can become better photographers. And so I'm in the mouth of a snake. Check out the eyes here. You know, I like using my imagination. When I consider imagination, I feel as though maybe in modern cities we lack this imaginative, creative way of looking at the world, because we quite literally lack a connection to the cosmos, to the universe, to the stars up above at night. It's always clouded with pollution. And so we actually, because we cannot see the stars in cities, yeah, maybe this causes this sort of like lack of imagination. Actually, yeah, last night my friend texted me. It was like, oh, you know, you're gonna see the like aurora borealis tonight. Like he was saying that there was some sort of like solar event or something, I think. And I think I actually just like looked on photos online. It looked pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to see anything in the city, so I just went to bed or whatever. I think the grass is a little wet today. Let me get up in the. It's been raining recently. It's been chilly. Got the down vest on, but yeah, it should be warmer later in the day. And so yeah, I'm reminded of my time in Zambia, Africa, when I was a Peace Corps volunteer working with aquaculture, fish farming, with the Department of Fisheries in various rural villages. But the village I was positioned in was specifically in the Luapula province in Sampia district in Panta village. I was a member of the Bemba tribe. Naishiba ichi Bemba sana na fwai ukutanda la kuzambia ukubumba inichi shiba. I would like to travel to Zambia and go work in the fish pond. Oh wow, this one is green. Hasn't sprouted or grown yet. And so, yeah, the Bemba tribe, there's 72 tribes in Zambia, and yeah, I was a member of the one tribe. I learned the one language. So there's like 72 languages, 72 tribes, 72 different cultures, 72 languages. It's quite incredible, really. And so when you're living in these remote villages, you know, what stood out to me the most was the hierarchy that exists in a functioning society just generally, which is God, tribe, and land. And when you consider the United States of America, you know, it could be God, nation, land, right? God, family, land. You know, these things I think are worth considering, right? I grew up going to a Catholic school from pre-K to grade 8. You know, every morning we would say the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You know, God bless America. You know, we would have this sort of like time in the morning to pray and to recite the national anthem or the Pledge of Allegiance. And you know, maybe there's controversies surrounding these ideas, like, oh, you're just going to blindly pledge your allegiance to a nation and, you know, indoctrinate a kid to this religion, or, you know, these kind of notions. But, you know, maybe it's not so bad after all, the more that I contemplate it. Like, I actually believe that this is a good thing. And the reason why I believe this is a good thing is because you become more connected to the land, you become more connected to the tribe, you become more connected with God. And so within the village, there is a church, and the church is the center of the small sort of rural town, right? And my particular village was, the church was a Seventh-day Adventist church, so they would pray on Saturdays. And so every Saturday I would go to the church with my host family. And the most amazing thing about the host family and the families that live there, so when you're a Peace Corps volunteer, you stay with a family, you have your own house on their compound. And I would have dinner with them pretty much every night, spend all the days together, working on projects, working on things, exploring the village, interacting with locals and other various farmers. And so what amazes me about the village and village life specifically is this hierarchy that exists within the family, where the mother is coming home with firewood on her head and babies on her back. The men are building homes and churches, the boys are building bricks with sand and mud. The girls are sweeping the floors, the girls are preparing the food for the day. Everyone has this role to play within the village, and I believe it promotes human thriving. And then I consider the church as this place of sacrifice. The church, the altar, the center of town, and there's so many big families. So maybe Christianity is good because it promotes family. So like when I consider Christianity, there's something to be said about religion, being this good thing that promotes family values and promotes the growth of families. And so when you're in these villages, you recognize, wow, like each family has like 10 children, like there's like 10 people per household, and the men and women marry when they're very young and start their family life very early and thrive off of the land itself. And so maybe there's something about the church, there's something about the sacrifice that the individual partakes in that then will benefit the collective, the tribe, the community, the village as a whole. And I believe that is where human thriving is made. It's within the individual sacrifice, and the church as this place of community, of sacrifice, of family coming together really spoke to me while in this village, and I believe taught me a lot about just life generally. Like it was a really eye-opening, sort of paradigm shifting experience to live in this rural village, where the staple food is maize, and maize, cassava, this root that's grown in the ground, and actually they would mash the maize into a powder and add water in a pot of boiling water, mix it together, and it would create this substance called ubwali or nshima. And this substance was basically the base of every meal, which primarily just consisted of fish, right? I was basically a pescatarian for an entire year. And so, actually when I arrived and I met my family for the first time there, they had a goat hanging from a tree, and he handed me a knife and I slaughtered this goat. We made a sacrifice. We feasted on this goat with the family for a few days. And I'll never forget that. And so maybe memory, it's a good thing, where memory and novelty kind of go hand in hand, right? So I think maybe in this modern world, we're seeking some sort of novelty, we're seeking some sort of experience in our everyday life, we're seeking something new, and maybe everything becomes same, boring. when living in a modern city because of the technology and the media that we consume on a day-to-day basis. And so what I've been realizing is the less I consume media and when I remove it entirely from my life, I believe that this is where I can find novelty in the mundane existence of just life generally, where, you know, going on this repetitive walk each and every day, while it may be the same and I'm walking down the same lane, through the medium of photography and the power of art, I can always find something to create, you know, where the world really is this endless canvas and there's just so much to see and so much to explore, even in your backyard, like here in Philadelphia. And check it out, they've got the garden going. This is beautiful. I saw them planting this a few weeks back. Now it's looking pretty nice. Yeah, so I actually just set up my godmother's garden. I have to go and plant the tomatoes, but it's been raining. This week I'll probably go plant them. That smells good. I wonder what that was. But yeah, I think that, like, maybe to seek novelty in life is a good thing. And I believe in order to do this, for me, you know, I think that look at that phone. It's like a plastic phone. You know, I believe that physicality is the answer. So maybe interacting with the world more, tinkering with the world more, you know, touching things, picking things up, you know, throwing rocks into the stream. You know, there's something about this physical world that maybe we neglect in this modern world, you know, becoming digitized. But the thing is, I believe life is better with electricity, right? Life is better with power. Life is better with running water at the tap. I'm reminded of my time in the Peace Corps each and every morning, tending to a well, drawing a bucket of water from a well, or going to the borehole. You know, the water in the village, this is the source of vitality. This is the source of life. You know, perhaps water is the very first physical thing to consider that, you know, we need. And, you know, maybe the world's, you know, primarily consisted of water. Our bodies are consisted of water. And water is so necessary to the point where, like, when you're in this village, you'll notice, depending on the distance of your house to the borehole or your house to the well, you could spend an entire day going for water. You could spend an entire morning or an entire evening just drawing water, because you have to carry various buckets to and fro, and it's this heavy big bucket with gallons of water, and you have many daughters, you have many sons, you have many people in your family to feed, and you have many people to provide water for. And you know, you recognize the importance of water when you're in these villages. And you know, I was blessed to live in a village actually that had electricity. We had a solar power plant that was just nearby. And you know, apparently China is implementing these solar power plants in Zambia specifically, and building roads and things. Not really too sure what's going on there, but look, the solar plant provided technology and this machine where they had this mill where the staple food was ground at scale. So they would take the maize during harvest season and feed it through this machine that would automatically grind the maize. And you know, just considering every single morning I would wake up and I would hear the banging of the mortar and pestle while the women preparing at 5 a.m. early in the morning to grind the maize down with your physical body. You know, it requires a lot of strength, requires a lot of time. And you know, it would be like a whole routine, like for the entire morning, a couple of hours of just banging at the mortar and pestle to feed the family. But what this machine allows is just efficiency, so that every harvest season, you know, the entire village can eat. The entire village can, you know, just bring these big bags from their farms and of maize, and you know, have enough food for the season. And you know, everyone shares that common land. Everyone has their own plot of land, their own food that they grow for themselves and for their family. And the mill and the solar plant provided jobs and sort of this economic hub within my particular community, which was very interesting. And transportation also played a critical role, where my village was it was positioned along Lake Bangweulu. And at Lake Bangweulu, many vehicles would drive to the port, and at the port there were many ships, but they were just these like rudimentary, like they would take like a tree, like a log or whatever, and carve it into just like a regular boat with a paddle. And young men would take rice from the capital, which would take you like 14 hours to drive to the village from the capital, pretty much a whole day, honestly. And from there, the young men would take these big bags of rice and deliver it to the neighboring islands or neighboring villages across the lake, which also provided jobs for some of the people within my particular village. And yeah, transportation is an interesting thing, where there really wasn't many cars. People would mostly bike, and you would see even people with like 3-4 people on one bike, which was just funny. It was like the father driving the bike, 2 boys, one on the front, one on the back. You would see people transporting even like couches and chairs and tying things to the racks of the bikes. And I would often ride to a neighboring village to acquire vegetables and food and things that I would store on the saddlebags of my bike. And you know, I remember when I was in college, I had a period of time where I would drive and get groceries. And then I actually realized like the headache of traffic and the time it would take me to drive the vehicle to Whole Foods that was maybe 10-15 minutes away. It would wind up being like this hour experience of driving there and back, like 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back. And so I would order groceries using Amazon Prime, and recognized how much more efficient this was. You know, it was just like, wow, what a luxury. You know, like Amazon Prime does delivery of groceries and they would just arrive at your door. And I never drove to get groceries again. I recognized that the transportation systems in place are essentially like the lifeblood or like the lifeline of modern cities. Considering when I was in Miami recently, I saw these little robot cars driving around, like those little RC cars, delivering for like Uber Eats or like meals to these apartments and stuff, just automatically. It's just crazy. Like, I wonder if we'll see that in Philly. Even in the grocery store at Giant, there's this robot that like, it's like taller than a human. It's basically like this humanoid robot with like googly eyes that drives around and like informs the workers where to like clean or like where to stock shelves, I believe. And yeah, it's just kind of eerie seeing the cybernetic, automatic sort of systems that we're putting in place. And considering artificial intelligence, technology, and all these kind of things, maybe it's more intelligent than us human beings. Like, I'm starting to think that actually, you know, intelligence, it's merely artificial, but the biological sort of nature of the human being, you know, I believe is also technology, right? Where I actually think the flesh is the technology. That is what the Vibram 5-finger shoes, the box, when you order them, it says, you know, flesh is the technology. And maybe the ultimate goal of human beings is reproduction, production, generally, you know, the creation of children, considering flesh as the technology, flesh as a way to produce, reproduce, you know, thinking of media, thinking of our genes, our genetics, you know, spreading genetics. What did Genghis Khan do? Did he spread his genetics far and wide? You know, maybe our genes are like memes, and the replication of our genes are almost similar to the memes spread on these like social media platforms and things, where maybe like memes are becoming the like source of information. And yeah, maybe our genetic makeup is merely just information. Look at the amount of cars over there on the highway. Yeah, I think that there's something about vehicles that I'm not a big fan of. Every time I'm in a vehicle, I get tired. I feel like I'm just, I just hate it. I think we're not designed to sit down. And the more that I think about it, I don't think humans are designed to be seated. You know, every time I'm seated, I feel weak. I feel like I'm becoming tired. So yeah, maybe physicality is good to consider. Every day is novel with a camera in hand. For the nuances and gradual change of light casted upon surfaces provide me with this endless canvas to photograph, you know, where you can never really make the same photograph twice. And that notion alone is just a powerful thing that fuels my curiosity and keeps me inspired. And a biker.